I have to understand all that.
And you solve all these problems.
I do.
Okay.
I do. And I take on the financial burden of getting all those up and running.
Really?
Yeah.
Welcome to another episode of the Julius Files, Entrepreneurial Chronicles. I'm Jasan Julius, your host, and I've got a very cool guest here today. As I try to, tell everybody, coming from my small business background, that I've championing small business. I have a guest. His name is Bryan Leniski, and he, in his own way, has built a business and a vision off of championing small businesses. So I thought it only appropriate to bring him on to let him tell his story and tell us all a little bit about what he does to actually service and take care of small businesses. So, Bryan, how are you doing, brother?
I'm doing better than I deserve. How are you?
They're better than you deserve. Okay, and that's a very good mindset.
Exactly right.
So, obviously, I want to say that what I know is that the business or the main brand is We Dine Indy. But before we actually get to the business, I'm very curious as to your entrepreneurial journey itself and about how you actually got where you are.
Oh, well, it was easy, of course. I just
always easy.
I just stumbled into it, and everything fell into place, and very little effort. It was great.
Yep. It's just that easy. That's why everybody's doing it.
Always is. Yeah.
Yes.
And nobody fails.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. And I failed.
And there's the genuine. We're out of the sarcasm. That is the. Yes.
I did fail, and in the failing, I learned. And every time I made a mistake, basically my entire journey can be summarized up in one phrase: make a mistake, but if you do it, learn from the mistake. It's no more complicated than that. So, I started off in restaurants. I was in restaurants for 16 years. I worked for the big chains. We're talking multi-unit international deals. And then I also, as anybody who works in the service industry knows, moonlit elsewhere.
Yes.
So, working 50, 60, 70 hours a week, because what else is a 20-something-year-old guy going to do but just work?
Well, and a food and beverage industry.
Exactly.
Because one of the things that I notice, and I fight this a lot with my people, is that they're into that mindset of, well, I just Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And I'm like, wait a minute, you're in the food and beverage industry. We service people's expendable income. They work 9 to 5. We work to service them.
Exactly. Somebody's throwing the party that you're having.
Exactly.
And I was the guy throwing the party that you're having. So, while you were able to enjoy, and that's great, it was my job to be the service side of it. And as a young, fiery person in the industry, I was the hot shot. I was there, made a lot of money, did the upsells, and all that stuff. But I lost service somewhere in there.
Really?
I was doing a job,
Okay.
but I was not doing a service, even though I was a server. And that's pretty reflective of younger people, I think, in general. But I certainly owned it. Mm-hmm. That was one of my failures.
Personal accountability. That's where so you're off to a good start in itself.
Yeah. And I remember, I'll never forget this for the rest of my life. It was somebody I'd had that had followed me to a couple different restaurants. It was a couple. And the gentleman.
So wait a minute. You had a couple that was so happy with your service that they actually followed you as you moved through your jobs.
I don't know how,
Wow.
but I managed to make it happen. And they were such a sweet couple too. And, took care of them. And the husband just keeled over one time at the table. He ended up being
Really?
fine, but it humanized the experience in a completely different way. It wasn't, me just doing a job anymore. It really brought home the fact, and I started thinking about it more and more, just the human aspect of what service was. I come from a family of entrepreneurs.
So it's in your blood.
Oh, yeah, very much so. It's 13 businesses between all my aunts and uncles and
Really?
grandfather and father. Carpet cleaning businesses. We're talking white collar or blue collar stuff.
So all service businesses.
Yeah, very much
that's
so.
interesting that so in your blood, and you had much reference to be able to fall back on.
I did. It was in there somewhere. It's not that I listened to any of it. So
because you were at that age that, of course, you knew everything, and they're old timers and know nothing. I get it. Yeah,
exactly right. Okay. Yep, I did that journey the hard way. I started turning inward, started thinking about it. Started re-examining what I did holistically, and I was a better not just a server, but a better human being from that standpoint, because I lived life in service to others to the best of my degree. And it was nice. It was refreshing. I made more money, honestly, just doing that and not worrying about the sales side of it. And it was kind of neat, that feedback from people.
So, I mean, so none of the family themselves really had any sales side of it. They were all in the service side of it.
No, it was entrepreneur stuff. And when you're running a small business, you're wearing far more hats than you expect to. You know, you start a business thinking, okay, I want to do this thing. I want to print. I want to serve coffee. But when you get down the runway, it's never like that. You're the salesperson. You're the HR person. You're the accountant. You're everything. You're wearing all these hats.
There you go. And the hats, exactly. Yes.
And it's different roles. And hopefully you're able to grow to a point where you're able to hire people to wear those hats and work in conjunction. And, you know, when you're at that point, hopefully you're also the type of leader that's able to coach people up and build them rather than have them do a role. In other words, you're building yourself through your journey over time. So, you know, serving all that was a piece of that journey. And I worked for big corporate restaurants, like I said, and small restaurants, and eventually I came to the realization that these big restaurants were selling the living crap out of gift cards, lots and lots of gift cards. We're talking $11,000-$12,000 per unit per concept. Really? You multiply that out by, you know, somebody who has 6 different concepts and maybe 40 locations out of Indiana. You know, you can see how that adds up to millions and millions and millions of dollars in credit card and gift card revenue. Yeah. And the statistics on small business is that if you do business with somebody who's based out of state, 52% of that leaves the state and never comes back.
Really?
Yes. So if you buy a burrito from a big corporate chain, that money's leaving Indiana. It's never coming back. Never coming back, yeah. In a small restaurant, gift cards represented almost none of their revenue. So I started thinking about why that was, right? There is a reason. So obviously people are attracted to a gift card that works in multiple locations. That's evident, self-evident. Convenient.
The power of Visa, MasterCard.
Exactly. Yeah. They're attracted to multiple food types. So if I have 6 different concepts, my gift card is good at the seafood place, at the steak place, yada, yada, yada. I want to buy that gift card over the mom and pop place. And you kind of skip over the mom and pop. One of the things that we don't talk about very much, and that is the reality, is that a small mom and pop place may not survive. So I can't tell you how many restaurants have closed down, and in the last 2 weeks of them closing down, everybody flooded with gift cards that punished that restaurant because they've already taken the revenue and spent that revenue long since. So they're putting out service, food, whatever, as they're in the death spiral.
Exactly. And that's,
you know, it's killer. It really is killer.
And I mean, I've been preaching that for a long time, that 9 out of 10 fail in the first year, and of the one that makes it, 9 out of 10 fail in the first 10 years. And it's all of those different landmines, pitfalls, and mistakes that small businesses can make. They just don't have the advantages and the leverages or the levers to pull that the big businesses have.
It's unfortunate. And so I thought I'd solve it. I'm going to take the Sisyphusian task and step up and try to turn the task a little bit.
So you have an entire family that is entrepreneurial spirited, but in today's day and age, you came in and said, okay, I'm going to embrace that entrepreneurialism, but I'm going to embrace technology and pieces that are what they don't legitimately understand because it's what you are seeing today, not yesterday.
That's honestly a really good insight. Okay. And that's exactly what happened. Yeah, pretty much.
Wow. Well, okay. So the name of the company itself is We Dine Indy.
We Dine Indy. So what I imagined is meeting the corporations where they were with an Indiana flavor. In other words, a single gift card pool good at only Indiana. Well, originally it was Indianapolis locations. I expanded it to Indiana because why not? If I'm going to do it in my backyard, why not look at the state as a whole? To me, a pool of independent Indiana businesses, sushi places, Indian places, your local pub, steakhouses, whatever, is a stronger brand than a simple Starbucks card or a simple Target card or whatever. That was my hope and my dream, and I launched the product that would support it. And, it was upside down for a few years, as all small businesses are, got solvent. And now I'm able to conduct business without going under. And it's from a marital standpoint, really, really nice, because now my wife supports me in a completely different way than when I was draining things.
There you go. That's generally, that comes a lot better. But the other side of it is that I'm sitting there going, one of the advantages per se is like, okay, big business, they find a concept that works and they duplicate it and they duplicate it and they duplicate it. And great, I'm not taking nothing away from them. That works. But there is a certain love that you're able to get out of one-off small businesses that they're able to inject in their recipes. So what you have developed is a gift card system where whoever were to buy this gift card, if they so choose, literally gets a list of all of the local businesses out there that are specializing in their own craft in general?
Correct.
Okay.
So not only do I do their individual gift cards, it's only good in their particular rooftop.
Okay.
I do a universal gift card that crosses over that, and that's exactly right. They get the whole list. You get access. There's some advantages to buying my gift card. I don't mean to sell against my individual clients, because it's tough to walk that line.
Because I'm sitting there going, you're offering both sides of it. As
Correct.
a small business, you need to be selling those gift cards because it's real legitimate revenue in general. And I believe I heard some type of statistic that like 15% of all gift card sales purchased are not redeemed.
That's true, but that's a bad deal.
Okay.
It seems like it's a good deal, but it's a bad deal.
No, but I'm just setting it from the, because I go trailing off, you
Right.
know, statistics. And 80% of all statistics are made up on the spot. But any which way, if the restaurateur wants their own personalized gift card, you support that platform.
I do that. I'm already got the logistics in place, so
But
why not give them
if a
that?
consumer wants to support small businesses, they're able to go to We Dine Indy and buy a gift card that allows them to access a group of small businesses that all perform in their own specialized markets.
Sure, an evolving group,
Okay.
because I'm always adding restaurants. So that same $100 gift card could be good at your favorite restaurant down the way. I have obviously a place for people to ask for their favorite restaurant, and I've gotten clients that way,
Okay.
where somebody says, "Hey, my favorite place is Sally's." I go to Sally's, talk to them, sign them up. But it also solves the difficult to buy for segment. What I mean by that is it's very tough to convince somebody to buy a sushi gift card and give it to a teacher.
Okay.
Like, you don't know anything about that.
If they're
person.
actually no,
Like
you bring up a good point, because they say in gifting, don't gift food, but a gift of a gift card that opens up access to many food establishments.
Sure.
That's okay.
And that's an advantage to the sushi place, because now they get access to a revenue stream they would have never otherwise had access to, and that's the generalized gift card business. Some do really well. I have some sushi restaurants and some ethnic food restaurants, but it's their same people that are coming in anyway. The special thing, really, when you boil it down, the special thing about my service is the people I send in are not coupon seekers. They're not deal seekers. They're people who are hyper-focused on serving small business and taking care of local people. It's local serving local.
Now, and I guess I do want to touch on that. See,
Yeah.
Developing my business and my brands in Kokomo, like I can legitimately say, like in that way, Kokomo is very special. I
agree.
There is a piece of this community here that goes out of their way to support locals.
I agree.
When I opened up in Indianapolis, I'm not going to say that segment is not there, but it is more of a metropolis area.
It's a chain town. I'll say it. It's a chain town. It
Then
really
you're
is.
saying, because don't get me wrong, I literally, like in the very beginning when I opened up in Indianapolis, I wasn't up to par on the technology side of it. And it was like people came in, and when they saw that I was not operating at the same technology expectations as the big boys, like they completely wrote me off. Like it took me a huge year of investing and then screaming out there, "Hey, I spent the money. I'm up to par with all of these big boys." And they're like, "Okay, now we might be willing to take a look at you." So there is a difference in that mindset in general. But We Dine Indy is meant to be We Dine Indiana. So
Correct.
where are you finding your biggest areas that you're that you're finding that they really go out of their way to support the locals?
Honestly, the biggest markets, Fort Wayne is a great independent town.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it really is. They've got a good independent spirit. They support the local. Chains come in. They have, like Eddie Merlot's. A lot of people don't know Eddie Merlot's is based out of Fort Wayne.
Really?
So it's an Indiana gift. Indianapolis is very much a chain town. You get in some of the burbs, like there's some pockets where it works. Like Beech Grove is a very independent pocket. Irvington's a very independent pocket. Fountain Square is a very independent pocket. But as a whole, when you get to the north side, Keystone at the Crossing, things like that, it's chain.
Okay.
And they dominate the market share. And it's hard to start an independent business at Keystone at the Crossing, which is some of the most expensive real estate in the state.
Absolutely.
Downtown Indy is interesting. I'm not sure that it ever is what it was in any given 5-year period.
Okay.
I mean, going back for years, it's a constantly evolving deal. They'll go through tides of a bunch of chains, get as many chains as we can because we have so many convention traffic folk, and then back the opposite.
So you've literally watched the ebbs and flows of that.
Yeah.
You're popular today, but gone tomorrow.
Yeah, and it's tough. Okay. And then there's the Slippery Noodles and St. Elmo's that are
some of the iconics that are just...
They'll be there forever.
Yeah, exactly.
But as independents.
Yeah.
Mishawaka is really interesting. So Columbus, Ohio, and Mishawaka, Indiana are the test beds for chains for the entire country. What I mean by that is they have the perfect demographic split of races, religions, age that represent America as a whole.
Okay.
So Columbus, Ohio, and Mishawaka, they put a chain in there if they're thinking about expanding nationwide. A general company will do that.
I just learned something.
Yep.
I did not. Okay.
And if it's successful in those markets, they'll begin to put franchises all over. So, we're at that place where we're attracting chains for that reason.
Okay. That's interesting because I'm sitting there wondering, do they have the same level of entrepreneurial spirit there locally where people are trying their hand locally, or is it just you're finding chains or are going into those areas to test their concepts?
Both. And we find some entrepreneurs that have tried, run into a wall, and then they end up working for the chains.
Okay.
Getting those up because they have to pull talent pool from somewhere.
Well, and I mean, and let's get into that piece of it. If you're dealing with a bunch of local businesses, a bunch of small businesses, then you're dealing with and running into all of the mistakes and the pitfalls that actually equal up to that 9 out of 10 fail in the first year, and of the one that makes it 9 out of 10 fail in the first 10 years.
Sure.
So what are you seeing as some of the major mistakes? So, it looks like the predominance of what you're doing is in the food and beverage industry. And I'll be the first person to say that your labor and your cost of sale are they're your KPIs. If you're not watching them, they'll bury you one way. But quickly. That's just a generalization of where I go back to waste kills all. I mean, if you allow waste, okay, your days are numbered in general. But when you start getting into more of the focused pieces, and right down to not selling gift cards and not tapping into that kind of revenue, what are some of the other things that you're seeing that lead to the failures that are obviously out there?
It's tough to define something without... I don't mean to insult anybody. I really don't.
No. This is just about I'm a real big believer in eyes wide open. Like America is obviously flush with entrepreneurial spirit. People want to get out there and try their concepts. But if you're going to do it, at least do it with knowing where the mass amount of failure is occurring, because the information is out there. And I just want to be honest with people that if you're going to go into business, there are roads you don't take. And if you're in business, there are roads that you should obviously correct. And obviously, if you're doing business with a bunch of businesses, you're seeing where small businesses are succeeding and competing against the big boys, and you're seeing the mistakes that they're making and where they're failing. Yeah.
Sure. I think the same spirit that is positive in a budding entrepreneur's cycle of I can do it, positivity, I'll take on the world, is also kind of their downfall. Ego, really, when you boil it down, a word ego. And that's what I mean by, I don't mean to insult anybody, but
no, because there's nothing wrong with having a healthy ego.
Correct.
You got to have a certain amount of confidence But ego can be a lot of times where pride gets in the way.
You have to remain coachable. You
Yes.
have to, especially in this world that is changing. Nobody's doing, I don't care if you're food and bev, retail, web services, podcasts, nobody's doing business the way they were a year ago or 2 years ago.
Ever changing.
Correct.
Yeah. No, I'm a big believer in, change is inevitable. Embrace it and you can actually have an effect on it. Don't embrace it. It's going to happen anyway, and it's likely going to go against you and you're going to resent it, but it's still going to happen anyway.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that ego can get in the way. It can get in the way of change. Did you start off with an accounting software that ultimately didn't do you any good? A point of sale software. Did you start off with one and it's not serving your needs in 2022? Do you have unfair loyalties to a credit card processor? I don't know. There's a whole variety of things. Do you measure your business success on, is there more money in the bank this month than last month? Because people sort of whitewash all the steps it takes to do that.
Yep.
Like you said something about waste, right? I cannot tell you, if I meet 100 restaurateurs, 90 of them probably don't know what the cost of their French fries are.
Really?
Honestly. I mean, they know what they pay for them, but that's not the same as knowing what the cost of that good is.
Exactly.
What first in, first out, good rotation, things like the super, super fundamentals. Things that are coached really, really well on the corporate level, because they obsess over that stuff, right? And they're able to turn an industry that's a 1 to 10% margin. I mean, 10%'s stellar, really, in the food and bev industry. The way to make $1 million in the restaurant industry is spend $2 million.
No, and I've long said it. That's and don't get me wrong, because where I am in the food and beverage industry, it was painstaking getting to where I am now.
Sure.
And it was a lot of technology coming in and literally tracking those pennies.
Yep.
And because in the food and beverage industry, it is a pennies game, and it is knowing what your cost per ounce is, and then knowing that if you have to throw out waste, that has to be factored into it to truly know what your real cost is.
And we haven't even talked about smiling to the person you're giving food to.
Right? Exactly.
So that's the perception. Yep. It's all a dance and fun and games, and it's not. It's never. It's always about the details you're not thinking about.
No, because I even tell Eileen on them, like, I'll get in their face when they're on the phone and I'll be like, smile, because they don't get it, but it comes out in your tonality just by smiling. Even if it's not face to face, that service and that voice comes through the phone, and it makes all the difference in the world. Because I tell them all, the customer's the lifeblood of the business. And if you don't show them definitively that you appreciate them, well, then you're leaving it open for interpretation, which is never good in a world where there's enough negativity out there, where if you leave it open for them to interpret, are they happy with me? Well, you're leaving the potential open for them to decide not, which means then they'll vote with their dollars elsewhere.
Correct. It's very, very hard to get somebody to come back. 9 out of every 10 bad experiences somebody has, they don't tell you about. They tell
everybody else. Yep.
So those 10% of people that complain to you, I understand it's frustrating. I totally get it. Our ego is bruised.
Because more often than not, when I see that, I'm thanking. Like that 1 star, it's gut-wrenching. But then I'm also thanking them because I'm sitting there going, they at least took the time to actually bring it to my attention.
That represents 10 times the amount of frustration that is out there that you're not hearing about. So it's all this stuff. So how do we holistically give somebody's mom and pop place that's right down the street every tool that the big guys have? How do we even define what that is? And that's what I spend a lot of my time thinking about and hopefully solve it.
What kind of reception? Because sometimes somebody can have a great product, but then when you have to literally set them down and give them the brutally honest truth and be like, you are your own worst enemy. You're getting in your own way. Okay, you are having to literally tell people that in order to get them to accept that there is a better way, or at least a path of least resistance or lesser resistance. How's that going for you?
Interestingly.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I suffer from a lot of the same critiques I put out for other small businesses. I wear too many hats. I would say that's a truism. And it's sort of a chicken and the egg. I mean, I know that's a super, super overused cliche, but that's real. You know, you wear so many hats that you have time to grow the business to get somebody else to wear the hats. Inversely, you're not generating the revenue because you're focusing on all these other pieces and you're making process improvements or whatever. There's always something you're missing.
Well, and that's where in a small business, you almost got to be Superman because, yeah, when you're starting out, you have to work in it 8, 12, 16 hours a day. But if you're not going to parse out 2, 4, 6 hours a day to be working on it, you'll never get out of the working in it.
It's the thresholds.
Yes.
Right? Going from sole proprietary to small business, there's a threshold you cross over, and it's a very, very difficult threshold. Mostly internal processes. You know, how do I let go of control? What is an ROI?
Is an ego
It's
issue.
an ego, yeah. It's an ego.
Yep.
What is ROI? You know, as a sole proprietor, you're doing everything yourself. You don't want to spend money on anything, salaries especially.
Exactly.
So how, when I let this go, when I give somebody else the reins of this, and that, especially labor-wise, I'm putting out money. Well, there is an ROI. It may not be a money-back ROI. Maybe it's a lifestyle ROI. Maybe it's enough time with your family so that you can decompress and approach the rest of the business with the vigor that you had when you started the thing in the first place.
I'm fully, because I mean, honestly, with me, when I look back on the years, it was that I think I went into adulthood knowing what that cliche definition of insanity was. So every time that I would hit that next mark, it was because I realized, like, I need to change what I'm doing because I'm beating my head against the wall, continuing doing what I'm doing. And I'm not an insane person. And I know that this is capable of being successful. What is it that I have to do to change what I'm doing? Because I'm not getting further. Like, I've hit that plateau and what I'm doing is no longer working and I want to grow it. And the technology side of it was a really big realization for me.
Yeah, exactly right. I think you get to these moments and those threshold crossovers of like a real true up of yourself. And the way out is as simple as ask for help or remain coachable or whatever however that plays out.
Again, comes back to pride and ego. And I mean, it's a touch on it because pride and ego can get in the way of so much progress.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of it all, you look at it and it's like there's nothing wrong with having a little bit of ego. It gives you confidence to get up every day.
100%.
But
it's that fire that lights the entrepreneur spirit in the first place. So it's a
competition.
Good thing.
Exactly.
So to reignite that fire, sometimes you need to understand that there's so many people around you that are willing to help.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they're going to charge you for that help. Right, but vendors aren't always the enemy.
Exactly.
You know, your positive relationship with your vendor partners, it's not adversarial. You're not watching the bottom line. You're not trying to draw them down to bare bones, because if your vendors are not well monetized, then they're not going to be there to help you. I made really good friends when I was in the industry. I ordered wine for a bunch of locations and managed the liquor sides of the business and the training sides of most of the businesses I did. And my liquor reps would love me because I would find a way to sell their stuff.
Okay.
On the restaurateur side.
Really?
It wasn't a relationship where they were trying to sell me stuff and I was being, oh, I don't know, give me a better price on this. I never did that, ever.
Really?
I did the opposite. And when it came down to it, if I needed a favor, I said, hey, I need this, this, and this. Can you help me solve this? I was the top of their list. So treating vendors always has an ROI back. Mm-hmm. Always does. Honestly, why I've had such a good relationship with Scared Rabbit over the years.
Okay.
ROI and that relationship has been great.
And I mean, don't get me wrong, because I'm not going to disagree with you. I'll push back a little bit.
Okay.
I knew that when I was developing Coffee Junkies and Pizza Junkies that I was going to grow to a national brand. I did not want to go through consortments. I wanted to deal directly with vendors.
Okay.
But I wanted to negotiate pricing, and I knew that, I mean, like day one when I opened up the first store, I was struggling to pay $250 to hit that truck. Okay, well, now I order several thousands of dollars from them. That buying power is there where we're all in business and we're all competing. They're competing with their competitors, which is leverage. In the last 2 years, I have not necessarily practiced this way because the supply chain has been so broke and inflation has been so crazy that I'm not sitting here trying to.
Why? Why has it been broke?
Yeah, I'm not going to go down that route. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole right here anyway, because my point being, I've caught my vendors speeding.
Okay.
And so there's always another vendor that wants your business. Okay, so you should at least be willing to look at their pricing.
Oh, yeah, you definitely should. And that's a good point. I'll concede that. You need to hold them, make sure they're not going out of their lane, but at least if you have the one you trust of the 5 vendors you are supplying your cheese, for instance.
Exactly.
Get the Romano in and buy a whole bunch of them and trade them like
and don't
gold.
get me wrong, because, I mean, not all vendors are created equal. I mean, you have some vendors that are really good about their quality, some of them that understand more about the relationship, but generally the vendors that you find that their business is in dealing with the chains, like, and
they overlook you.
Yes. Well, you say they overlook
that's
you.
real.
There's an in particular vendor out there that they said was the Antichrist, or used to be the Antichrist of small business. And in a meeting, I spoke up and said, they still are. And their biggest business is that they actually service the massive chains where, like, the only thing that they do with small business is give them horrible product and rip them off on their actual pricing
because they don't
in general.
need you.
Exactly. And that's the thing right there, where it's like there are some vendors you can't necessarily develop those relationships you'd like to. But on the other end of it, when you're talking about small businesses, they're not looking to duplicate, which means developing those really strong lines of communication with their vendors. They're never going to scale to have the buying power to really be able to lean on the price points, that's why I said I'm not necessarily going to disagree with you that the relationship aspect of it is, because they're capable of servicing you many ways, not necessarily on price point itself.
Mm-hmm. I've worked with some of those vendors to be referred in. That's a not indirect tangential benefit you can get from a potential vendor, which is kind of neat.
Yep. Okay, so hypothetically, you got a small business that is either struggling to find their way or getting ready to start up, and they're at least smart enough to know, hey, gift cards is a potential problem that I need to find a solution for. How does that actually, how does that work with you? What extra services, how are you actually onboarding them and going out of your way to actually take care of them?
I make it seem like it's easy.
Okay.
It's all smoke and mirrors.
There you go.
So to them, they just sign a piece of paper, don't pay anything. I do all the hard work. I do all the investment and get them up and running. I have to solve a few different problems for anybody who wants, let's just take gift card services, for instance. I need to solve what their current software is. Does it play nice with my current gift card platform? It may or may not.
Yep.
Do we need to get iPads or terminals in place, terminal readers? Do they need to be a web-based browser interface? Like, I have to understand all that.
And you solve all these problems?
I do.
Okay.
I do, and I take on the financial burden of getting all those up and running.
Really?
Yeah. So I've taken the subscription model to heart.
Okay.
I strip away all the negotiation, because one of the big barriers people have to get gift cards versus gift certificates is that I can print a gift certificate for 7 cents a pop and print thousands of them. Who cares?
Yep.
Gift card starts usually at about $1 a card, right?
Okay.
So that investment's a little bit different. Plus, you have to buy a minimum amount
Exactly
to get your print run done. Well, for me, since I am the purveyor, I can just do small runs for them, or really in the background what I'm doing is I'm doing a bulk run and I'm warehousing the rest.
Okay.
That allows me to do online gift cards, which we'll get to in a second. So I take care of the printing, absorb all those costs, get them what they need, to a batch 250, 100, whatever. I'll play with them. I've already got the batches back. Solve the software problem, allow them to sell gift cards online because it's a cloud product. My software suite is a cloud product, so I'm able to let them sell at events or redeem at events, or sell e-gift, snail mail fulfilled, or virtual, whatever. I give them every tool that the big chains have.
And that's just what I say. Now you get into because I mean, it sounds like you have thought it out and you were solving all of these problems, but then you referred to online gift cards.
Online gift cards. Yep.
Okay.
It's obviously trending. Insanely, people haven't embraced it like they should.
Mm-hmm.
Usually because the cost of adoption is pretty high. I mean, you have to host an e-commerce deal. You have to solve how a generated card will talk to their, how you're able to see that those are legit gift certificates. Do you treat them as virtual coupons and treat them as a comp when they get there? Like, all that's very, very difficult. So I have the infrastructure to solve all that, which is stress relieving. But when you get into that, you start pulling that string. Sometimes I find out that their POS is hostile, and that's the reason they haven't embraced gift cards, because they don't want to give their gift card business to a point-of-sale provider, or their gift card provider is charging a premium of 2.5% on top of the physical cost of production of gift cards. Like,
and I'm not going to deny,
stuff.
I shied away from because of that.
Yep.
It was like,
that's real.
Why get into this when they are the cost of production and they're taking so much up front? And I just got to a point where it's like, if I can't do it profitably, I'm not going to do it at all. And those a lot of those gift card providers out there are just, they have it set up where you don't win as the actual restaurateur because they're taking so much off the top.
Correct. It's a trap. Mm-hmm. I try to strip away all that. Now, my monthly is, it hits the bottom line every single month, no matter what.
Exactly.
So that's a consideration that restaurants or retail outlets have to have, because I do retail outlets and service-based, industries as well. And as long as we meet that, I strip away all the logistics, all the stress of getting that up and running, and I take care of it. And every once in a while, we get into a point-of-sale conversation, and I can take care of the point-of-sale needs. Maybe they need paper products, and I can step in and take care of those. Or they want to put their logo on glassware or on shirts or hats, whatever.
And obviously, that's where say what we've been collaborating about us, looking at how we can solve some different problems. But I think a lot of small businesses, I mean, honestly, they just don't necessarily know what they're getting themselves into. They're like, you know what, I've got this really good burger recipe or this really good pasta or chicken recipe, and I just think that I can sell a lot of it. And
I've been to restaurants before, so that's totally easy.
Exactly, right there.
And I've never watched Kitchen Nightmares or Restaurant Impossible, and they have the same conversation every single time. It's a reflection of the conversation we're having today.
Yep.
You don't know your food costs. Your menu is unwieldy. You're wearing too many hats. You need to give up control. It's exactly the same thing. We're not unique in that in Indiana. Mm-hmm. We're dealing with the same entrepreneurial difficulties that every small business does. And I desperately want to help people solve that so that they can get back, quite frankly, not just to their businesses, but to their families.
Well, and I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm going to kind of lead you down a path here on this. Is that so, like, and I've seen it firsthand. Like consulting, the shit's expensive. I mean, like if you truly want to go out and buy consulting, you're going to pay thousands and thousands of dollars. Mm-hmm. So have you found yourself offering up that information to people for free as you are solving all of these other problems, That's an incredibly difficult question, and that's something I struggle with. I mean, I know what my value is on the marketplace. I've been a chef. I know how to run wine programs. I know training. Like, there are things I see every time I walk into a place that's like, not that they're doing it wrong necessarily, but my gosh, just make this small adjustment and the windfall benefit to your brand, to your daily operations would be so much better. But I have to sit on that. Really?
I have to.
Okay.
Because I can't give it away for free.
Yep.
What's the point?
Well, and I was listening to another guy, and he said this, and it just resonated so true. He goes, servers have to upsell. I don't know why they're not taking your dessert order when they're taking your dinner order. Why wait until the dinner has already been served and you're already full and stuffed and say, do you have room for dessert? Well, it's sugar, so it might be appetizing, but you're already full. Just how many upsell orders could you get if when you were taking the dinner order, you tempted them while they were still hungry with the sugary sweets and got it on the bill before you actually served them the food?
That was one of my key to success when I was a server.
Really?
Was I would sell that, not just sell the dessert, but I'd preload. I made a joke out of it. It's like, you're not going to be hungry enough for dessert later. Do you want me to make sure and get a cheesecake ready to go so you can grab it and go?
But it increased the ticket, which increases your tip.
And then in the airport, I made a killing by selling bottles of water.
Really?
Every single table, because they're they have to go through security and all that stuff. You want a bottle of water to go? I'd sell a ton of them. I'd make my team stock boxes of bottled water and have a bunch on hand.
Just as suggestive. And I will say that, I never thought as a kid willing to drink water out of a hose that you would be paying $1 or more for a bottle of water. But I've got to imagine that it is one of the most profitable sales to be made out there.
I made other people a lot of money.
There you go.
And that's why I started a business, is because I was tired of making everybody else money.
Okay. So you started making money yourself by solving other people's problems.
Correct. Those that I could approach respectfully, that it was a two-way equitable street, and we're both interested in the same thing, and that's setting aside ourselves, seeing how we can step up to the plate and help in smart ways.
Okay.
In ROI ways. Not just spending money to spend money. That's silly. I would lose my reputation very quickly if I did that. But, as best we can, there's always misses. There's usually it's miscommunication or misunderstandings. They happen.
Well, it's about like baseball. You are a superstar if you're batting 500. But, in business, man, if you're not batting 1,000, it's just like, oh, you're not doing something right. No, you're going to have those misses. I get that.
Yep. You can do everything perfect and still stumble. It happens.
So as you have been seeing people go through this economy that we've been dealing with in the last couple of years, how have your clients been faring?
More or less fairly well. I've been blessed to have very, very low attrition, to have people who are still paying their bills. I suspended all my billing for the gift card services through COVID.
Really?
Yeah. Like I said, I'm a solvent business. I'm not a rich man. I don't have 6 swimming pools or anything. I'm okay. I'm stable.
I've only got 4.
Yeah, I've only got 4. But the business is solvent. It was running. It's my software. I can control the cost. So that was my service to those places to keep them just alive.
Yep.
That was my only concern. We're past that hump of staying alive. Those who are going to close probably closed, or are looking to sell, or far enough down the sales pipeline that's going to happen, and they're going to retire out of the business.
Exactly.
There's been a lot of culling. I think trimming and culling is the right terms for that. Now we're down to lean and mean. We're down to where restaurants were probably in the early 2000s, where it's not you have 30 options down away. You have 10 or 9 or even 5. So the same amount of people who will begin to go out again are going out to fewer places. So those that have managed to stay above water are seeing the fruits of having stayed above water.
Okay.
Does that make any sense?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. That was because it is diligence. You have to keep working at it and keep waking up to make sure the doors are open to live to fight another day.
You do.
Yep.
But there's a different level of success for people who set themselves up for success before all this happened, and those who scrambled to catch up to everyone else after. There was a bar that's in my portfolio. They embraced online ordering in a real way a year and a half up to the COVID and the pandemic stuff. Okay, so they were they had established customers. It was out there, established practices in-house to deal with all of it. They were only down 10%, but this is a pub, so they lost all their liquor sales. Liquor is where margins are. So
Exactly.
Even having lost that, they were down a negligible amount, really, because the food was way, way, way up. You had a lot of people who went out of their way to support small business and all that stuff. So that was in play. So it's not a single factor. But those people who were struggling to pick up online ordering and didn't have it established before this, they had a tough time ramping it up. So there's this cartoon that I always refer to. It's a salesman who's selling guns to a army, and the head of the army says, I don't have time to that, I have to fight a war, and they go off with swords. And the salesman's selling guns, right?
Exactly.
There are tools out there to help you, even if you think everything's great. So whether it's listening to your vendors, listening to your peers, whatever, always be mindful of that, because you never know.
So you are a modern day arms dealer for a local business.
I'm giving them the tools to succeed. I can't guarantee success, but I'm doing the best I can to tool them up to fight the battles.
And if they are actually out there, how do and they're interested, how do they find you?
Well, they can talk to you, who will point them to me. They can talk to me directly. WeDineIndy.com obviously is my landing page for all of my concepts that I jump off of. I have positive relationships with a lot of independents out there. So with any luck, if I get a referral from one of them, those are warm referrals. Those are what I call closable leads. And I don't mean to distill anybody down to a lead, because that's not what real businesses are. They're humans trying to do human businesses. But with any luck, I've got a positive relationship with those vendors as a local person who's doing business right. And I connect with you through those third parties as well. But Bryan at WeDineIndy.com. It's Bryan, Bryan, at WeDineIndy.com. Go to the website, fill out the contact form there. Twitter and Facebook pages, obviously. That's the primary way to reach me.
Okay. Well, man, I'm sitting there thinking, I mean, because I'm pretty well versed in general as far as the services out there, but I'm like, is there anything that you can think of as far as a generalized message that you actually want to put out as far as the industry and your services themselves as we wrap up?
Yeah, and I think it's a universal message. If I were to leave anybody with it, reverse your thinking, probably. So most people look for a product and then look for somebody local that sells that product. Do the opposite. Look for a local provider and then find the products that are available to people who are local to you, people you can look at in the eye and all that stuff. It may not be the product you necessarily think of, because if you Google something, you're going to be led where Google wants you to be led, right? And that's way off the path of local, quite frankly.
Okay.
So inverse your thinking. Find somebody local to do what you want, and if they don't do it, honestly, local people are pretty friendly. They may refer you to somebody that's quote-unquote a competitor that is also local that will accomplish what you want. That's what I would leave somebody with.
There you go.
And that works for food, that works for retail, that works for somebody doing a home-based business, the whole shebang.
Okay. So I got to admit, I mean, what I'm intrigued about on all of this is that I'm sitting there going, I want to actually to go on the We Dine Indy website, because again, to find a listing of all of the small businesses that do their own little thing and know that you're supporting small businesses itself, I mean, that's a big deal. And I mean, it's a big deal to a lot of people that just do not want to circulate their money on a corporate level.
That's true.
And you are solving a problem for small businesses because there is legitimate revenue to be had in those gift cards, and in a plastic day and age that people don't want to carry around cash anymore. I mean, you're solving a problem on both sides of it. So.
Sure. The virtual gift cards as well. And, if it's not me, if I'm not the right fit, there's Marketwagon.com. It's an Indianapolis-based aggregate for small business. There's Indiana Originals, which is a brand awareness group. Mel Stone runs that as a friend. Like, there's no competition in the small business place, because we all want to help each other out, even if we're not the right fit. We'll find somebody that is.
Guys, I mean, that right there, like the man doesn't let the ego get in the way. I mean, he's literally like championing small business to the point that he's actually putting out there what other small business or small business solution providers are out there, just simply to give small business the actual tools that they need to compete with the big boxes and the billion-dollar businesses. I mean, that's very commendable, brother.
Thanks, man. I'm just tired of billion-dollar out-of-state tech companies taking our money away and not giving it back.
There you go. Okay. All right, guys, we are gonna wrap up this episode of the Julius Files. Until next time, you have a good day.
Very much appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you.